Welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe.
And this episode will be another Duel episode. We are pitting Miss Martian, the Teen Titans character, though you may know her from the Young Justice cartoon series, against Hulkling, who is in Young Avengers.
Yeah, this duel is in lead up to our next team duel, which will be coming out, I think, around September or October. We're going to pit Young Justice against the Young Avengers. The duel is selected by our executive producers. We think it's a great option and can't wait to dive into the younger generation of heroes over the coming weeks.
Yeah, later on in this episode, we'll be breaking down the characters' histories and abilities before speculating on how a match between the two would play out before we run stat-based simulations to figure out which character would actually win. Before that, we're going to break down the comic book movie news from the past week, of which there's some real doozies. The Joker sequel title has been revealed. We got our first trailer for Black Adam and our first trailer for Netflix's Sandman series, and the Thunderbolts movie has been announced for the MCU along with its director.
As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic. And guys, don't forget to join us on Patreon, where we offer ad-free episodes of the show via a custom RSS feed, bonus content, including top 10 episodes and bloopers, monthly live movie watch-alongs, and access to our Discord chat server. Check it out right after this episode at patreon.com/dynamicduel, linked in our show notes. Our lowest tier is only $2 a month, and it's only $10 a month to become an executive producer of this show, where you can help us determine the content that we produce. But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize.
A No Prize is an award Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award we post on Instagram for the person that we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question was, what's the worst Marvel or DC TV show you've ever seen? And that was coming off of the first trailer we got for the CW's Gotham Knights television show, which looks horrible. But will it be the worst? Let's compare it to some of these answers we've got, which were only a few. Jonathan and I are recording this episode a little bit earlier in the week than we typically record our episodes, so we didn't get as many answers to review.
Yeah, we got 3 answers to be exact, so we have 2 honorable mentions to give before we announce this week's No Prize winner. Our first honorable mention goes to Colby Henches, who said,
"Hey, it's Colby Henches, and it breaks my heart because I love Alan Tudyk, but Powerless was horrible. Great cast, so much potential, poor writing, poor directing, poor execution."
Now, I'm going to slightly disagree with this answer because I actually enjoyed Powerless for what it was. I mean, the writing was kind of bad, but the cast kind of did what they could with it, and it was pretty memorable. Like, I still remember funny moments from this TV show. The special effects were god-awful, but I'm not going to hold that against them too much because it just kind of added to the cheesiness of the whole thing.
Now, initially, the show was going to be about superhero insurance claims, right? And the company that handles those. But then it became something else where it was like an invention company where they were inventing superhero stuff.
Yeah, it was a subsidiary of Wayne Enterprises that made personal protection devices for average people who have to live in a world with superhumans.
It's a great concept, I gotta say. It's fantastic. It
wasn't terrible. The star hero of the show was Crimson Fox, who no one knows. But other than that, we did get like some cameos from like Starro and even like Green Lantern and stuff like that. So it's a guilty pleasure.
I remember back in the day, Marvel was going to come out with a Damage Control television series that was in development. I would have loved for that to have come out. It sounds similar, kind of like a similar premise.
Yeah.
Although Damage Control obviously deals with the fallout of superhero battles. But great answer, Colby. Let's go ahead and move on to our other honorable mention, which goes to Benjamin Alvis, who said,
"I think that the worst show has got to be the Spider-Man 70s show. Jeez, that show is bad. But it falls under the category of it's so bad, it's good. So, like, I have mixed feelings about it. But, like, geez, it's, like, crazy storylines all mixed up. They know nothing about the Spider-Man comics. So I think it was the worst, but it's so bad, it's good. Bye."
Now, I couldn't quite make out if he said Spider-Man or Spider-Man. There were 2 70s live-action Spider-Man television series. One of them was American, and the other one was Japanese. They were both bad.
and they were both bonkers.
Yeah. I mean, the Japanese Spider-Man television show where he had Leopardon, the big Megazord type thing, that was even more bonkers. I have to say I like that one better, though, just because of its off-the-wall appeal. The American Spider-Man 1970 show didn't have any of the charms that the Japanese one did. It was just cheap and lame, and like he'd tie people up in like white ropes. It was stupid as hell.
The costume was really bad. At least with the Japanese shows, Spider-Man, he had like cool gadgets and shit. It felt very much like Power Rangers. Yeah, totally. It was closer to Power Rangers than it was to Spider-Man.
Right, exactly. But whatever answer you gave, Ben, they're both great.
The answers, not the shows.
Right.
Just to clarify.
Yes.
But the winner of this week's No Prize is CJ Kraft, who said,
"Hey guys, CJ Kraft here. Worst Marvel or DC TV show? Easy. Inhumans. Enough said. Done and done."
Yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? Inhumans sucked. We reviewed it on this podcast back when it initially came out for IMAX. I can't believe they still figured it would be cool to shoot this on IMAX considering how cheap everything looked on the show.
Right? Yeah. Like it was just going to make it look more cheap. They should have saw that coming. I'm still really embarrassed that we ended up reviewing the 2-part theatrical release that came out, because as I was watching it, I was like, I cannot believe this is a thing. We were like the only people in that movie theater.
I remember that. Yeah, and you didn't even finish watching the whole TV show, huh?
Hell no.
No, I did, because I'm a masochist in that way, and just morbid curiosity, I guess. It ended up being really bad. It did not really save itself. In fact, the first 2 episodes were probably the best part of the whole series. And I think we gave that 1.5 stars. So there you go.
Yeah, I think it's the lowest rating we've ever given, or one of them at least.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the worst in the fact that I would absolutely rather watch Powerless or the Spider-Man shows over Inhumans.
Yeah.
Like I never need to see that ever again.
Yeah, hopefully they bring back the Inhumans in some capacity, whether it be a TV show or another movie in development. Again, I do like Anson Mount as the lead actor for Black Bolt. It was nice to see him again. But again, great answer, CJ Kraft. Congrats on winning this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week. And now that that's done,
on to the news. Okay, so last week we talked about how Todd Phillips is being appointed by David Zaslav, the head of Warner Brothers Discovery, as DC's new consultant and advisor on their films going forward, which was amazing news because Todd Phillips, of course, wrote and directed The Joker, which is the most successful comic book film ever made. So coming off of this news, I was really, really excited to see that Todd Phillips has teased the script for the Joker sequel, which is Joker Folie à Deux. Now, the subtitle refers to a psychological phenomenon where 2 people, sometimes in the same family, share a psychosis or insanity. So this title could have a number of implications, and all of them are exciting.
Yeah, basically it means that there's going to be someone else that's just as crazy as the Joker in the Joker sequel.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago that Willem Dafoe in an interview said that he would love to play the Joker, and he really liked Todd Phillips' initial Joker film starring Joaquin Phoenix, saying that he would hope a sequel would introduce a copycat Joker of sorts. So perhaps that's what this title implies, a copycat, which would be really fascinating. Some have speculated that it might be Barry Keoghan's Joker character from Robert Pattinson's and Matt Reeves' The Batman film.
Yeah, that was my theory that I said, where perhaps they shared time in Arkham Asylum and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was the one that inspired Barry Keoghan's Joker. Because, of course, there can be multiple Jokers. There's already been that precedent within the comic books. And that way it ties in the Joker movie to the recent Batman movie.
Now, initially, I was pretty skeptical at that because the first Joker film seemed to be, very standalone. I wasn't thrilled at the idea that they were making a sequel, but now that we're learning more about it, I'm super excited. And with the news that Todd Phillips will be sort of taking creative control over DC's stories going forward, it's not unfounded, I think, to think that he would be merging universes in a way. So yeah, I could totally buy that. Perhaps Barry Keoghan could be this second Joker implied perhaps by the script. But that's not the only potential implication. As I mentioned earlier, Folie à Deux often applies to members within the same family, and it was suggested in the first Joker movie that Bruce Wayne and the Joker are half-brothers. And it's always kind of been implied that Batman is also insane. He has some kind of insanity to go off and dress up like a bat and beat people up, you know? So maybe this is talking about Bruce Wayne, which I think would be really cool. To have an angle of Bruce Wayne kind of like suffering from this mental disorder and sort of maybe overcoming that or just suffering through it on his journey to becoming Batman, I think would be really cool.
But then again, you'd have to cast a new Batman, even though we already have Robert Pattinson.
I think this would be like a teenage Bruce Wayne. I don't know, just a theory. A lot of people are saying this title could also refer to Harley Quinn, who of course could be treating the Joker in Arkham State Hospital. I don't think that's a far-fetched idea at all. My speculation was that you could probably introduce Joker's daughter in this, and you would have a young teenage girl kind of suffering from the same mental disorder that her father is.
Does Joker have a daughter in the comics?
Well, there's a girl who claims to be his daughter. I think in Silver Age he did, actually have a daughter.
Interesting.
And the final interpretation of this title that I've seen online is this is a reference to Two-Face, with the whole like dual nature kind of aspect being played upon.
Okay, yeah, a lot of great theories here. You know, Faliadu could refer to a copycat Joker, Batman himself, Harley Quinn, perhaps Joker's daughter, or Two-Face. A lot of different directions that the sequel could go in.
And honestly, like, I would probably be happy with any one of those. I can't wait to learn more about this. If the script is done, maybe they'll start shooting by the end of this year or early next year for maybe a release in late next year or early the following year. We'll see. We'll keep you guys updated. In other exciting DC news, we got our first official trailer for Black Adam. And it looks a little bit different than I expected it to. I knew that JSA was going to be in this film, and it looks like they're featured very heavily. I was under the impression, though, that a lot of the film was going to take place in the past, but judging by this trailer, we won't get too much of that, and a lot of the movie will actually take place in modern day, as seen by the film's opening scenes, where Black Adam is put in this, like, futuristic container of sorts. I'm not sure what's going on here at all.
Yeah, it appears he's in some kind of like science facility. I wonder if this is where he gets his powers, which wouldn't make sense because in the comic books, Black Adam's origins are magical, not scientific.
Exactly. And we learned in the first Shazam movie that Black Adam had already had his powers in ancient Egypt. The facility also doesn't look like something that the JSA would use. Like when I think of the JSA, I tend to think of like the brownstone and something a little bit more antiquated, you know? Of course, the planes that the JSA flies in this movie look really cool.
They look a little derivative of the Wakandan airships, right? Especially when Hawkman jumps through the floor. That was a shot that was taken directly from Black Panther, I feel like.
Yeah, but no one remembers that.
Everybody remembers that, man.
I don't. The one scene I did tie to a Marvel film, though, was halfway through the trailer when Black Adam is flying alongside the planes. That was like straight from Iron Man, right?
Yeah, that looks fairly similar to Iron Man. And also when Dr. Fate throws up like his angular glass wall type thing, it looked just like the mirror dimension that Doctor Strange throws up.
But better. No, I thought the same thing too. I was really hoping that they would go a different direction with Dr. Fate's magic and make it something really unique that we haven't seen before. But yeah, I will admit it does look like the mirror dimension.
Also, Atom Smasher kind of looks like Giant Man running through the city. And the way they portray Cyclone with like this green smoke behind her, I kind of thought it was Mysterio for a second. So it's like this movie is highly derivative. We've seen a lot of this before, which is why I think I personally wasn't too excited by this trailer. I was hoping for something with a little bit more substance, whereas it appears like a lot of this movie is flashy and visual effects heavy.
You know, I will admit to not being as thrilled by the trailer as I thought I would be. And it may be because we've seen a lot of this stuff before. And I just didn't realize that. Because you're not wrong. You know, I've even heard people say that Atom Smasher's look is very akin to Deadpool's. So where's the originality here? I think really it comes down to The Rock. You know, even take a look at the scene where he's flying alongside the planes like Iron Man. Iron Man didn't punch out one of the wings on those planes. You know who does? The fucking Rock.
Well, Iron Man did knock off one of the wings. It was just accidentally. I think what DC is trying to go for here is really their own Avengers movie, but with The Rock as the lead, which in theory sounds like a sure thing. You know, it sounds like fun times.
I feel like you just made me dislike this movie more than I wanted to. Comparing it to the Avengers is like, ugh, to me.
I'm not wrong, though. I mean, look at it. They're fighting those like Chitauri spaceships through the city of wherever city they are.
No, apparently the villain is going to be Sabak, who is like this fiery demon type villain. It's a Shazam villain, actually. So I don't think we'll see like Chitauri soldiers from like space or anything like that.
Well, I mean, like we see these like futuristic jet skis flying through the air that Black Adam is fighting. It is interesting, though, that the villain will be Sabak because he's a mystical villain, whereas it looks like the antagonistic forces within this trailer are very technical. Even the missile that gets shot at Black Adam at the end of the trailer looks like futuristic tech.
Yeah, it's like the Kandaki government, I guess, has their hands on some really powerful weaponry.
What did you think of that joke where he cut the missile?
I didn't think the joke landed. I was really hoping like that scene would lead to this badass moment where we saw like Black Adam's eyes glowing with electricity in the smoke or something like that. But instead we got like a hand on a window. And I'm like, what the fuck is this, Titanic? I also didn't like how he like slid backwards into the window frame. It's like, is he doing the moonwalk? I don't know. There's so many things I was like, that didn't feel quite right during this trailer. And I know people loved it. And I somewhat loved it too. It's The Rock. It's exciting. It's superheroes. The most exciting thing to me actually was not Black Adam, but the JSA. Seeing Hawkman, seeing Dr. Fate, seeing Cyclone in action for the brief moment we got was really cool.
I think one joke that did land, though, was when one of the soldiers hit Black Adam with their baton, and then they tried to do it again, and they were like knocked like miles away. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, of course, that took place like right after the scene where Black Adam straight up tells Hawkman that he kills people. That's always sort of been the appeal of Black Adam in a way, in that he's like Superman or Shazam meets the Punisher. And that's interesting.
Yeah, an anti-hero with that level of power. Definitely worth exploring. And hopefully, they go in deep with the character regarding his personal anguish and things like that. And hopefully this isn't just like a popcorn movie like it's shaping up to be from this trailer.
I don't want it to be that, but I'm fully anticipating that it will be based on this trailer. It did lower my expectations.
But nothing wrong with a good time.
I guess, yeah. In our final bit of DC news, Netflix released its first trailer for The Sandman, which I cannot wait for. The Sandman is one of my most favorite pieces of literature, let alone comic book, that I've ever read. The story is just so moving and by the end, devastating, so poignant. It is a must read, and I'm super excited to see how faithful Netflix's adaptation looks to the comic source.
Yeah, it looks quite surreal and captivating and wondrous. Compared to the brief glimpse of the show that we got, I think, late last year, there's so much more to be seen within this trailer. So many visuals. The budget on it looks spectacular.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They pulled no stops, I think, when it came to the production value of this. Everything from the helmet to the land of the dreaming, to just everything. Everything looks amazing. We get our first look at characters like Mad Hetty and Johanna Constantine, who really seems to be supplanting John Constantine and his role in the book. But that's fine because Johanna Constantine actually does also play a role in the books, so it's not a big deal to me. I'm just excited to see her. We also get our first look at Lucian, who's sort of the librarian of the dream world and one of Morpheus's like top aides. We also get to see a character who's looking into some mirrors with a hook ring. Now that hook ring is a symbol of one of the Endless named Despair. That's definitely not Despair because the actress who plays Despair looks very different. I'm not sure who the actress is, but we also get a look at David Thewlis as Dr. Destiny. He also played Ares in the first Wonder Woman movie, and he's holding the Dreamstone in the scene that we get to see him in, which is exciting. This is not the Dreamstone that was in Wonder Woman 1984, that suck-ass version. This is like the good version, the comic version. At the end of the trailer, though, we get a behind-the-back shot of the Corinthian, and I cannot wait to see him. If you're not familiar with that character, he's a nightmare embodiment who has mouths for eyes. And that's why you can see his eyes are bleeding from the side. Horrifying. Just horrifying. And I'm sure it's going to be horrifying in this adaptation.
Wait, so his mouth eyes are bleeding?
Well, yeah, he kills people by eating them with his eyes.
That's weird. That's pretty nightmarish. I guess that's pretty apt.
This trailer gave us a reveal date for when the show is premiering. It's August 5th.
Which is actually a lot sooner than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's coming up real quick before the end of the summer, and it's going to have 10 episodes, I believe, that are releasing all simultaneously.
Yeah, so we'll have to binge it, and then we'll be reviewing The Sandman a few weeks after its premiere.
I am beyond excited for this show. My expectations are probably higher than almost anything else DC has put out.
But you are making sure to check them.
Fuck no. No, this is Sandman.
All right. Okay. That may be your downfall. We'll see.
Are you excited for it?
Nah. It looks boring.
What do you know, though?
All right, now that we're done with the DC news, let's get on to the good stuff, the exciting stuff. We just learned this past week that Marvel Studios is developing a Thunderbolts movie and has hired Jake Schreier as its director. Apparently, he blew them away with his pitch for their Thunderbolts film. Now, it's kind of been a poorly kept secret that Marvel has actually been working on a Thunderbolts film. We thought they were working on that or maybe like a Dark Avengers type thing. But it is cool to see that it is, in fact, the Thunderbolts, which in the comics was a team of supervillains posing as heroes.
Yeah, I would say they're kind of like the equivalent of DC's Suicide Squad.
In a way, the Suicide Squad has the interesting angle of their kind of being blackmailed into heroism, whereas the Thunderbolts are traditionally either rehabilitating toward heroism or putting on a ruse.
Okay.
There have been numerous rosters throughout the years. The initial one was led by Baron Zemo and had characters like Atlas, Mach 10, The Fixer, Moonstone, Songbird, things like that. But later teams have incorporated people like Red Hulk, Punisher, Deadpool, Elektra, Ghost Rider. There was a team that was led by the Winter Soldier once. So there's a lot of characters that the show can pull from for their version of the team. Now, I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, who appeared in the Black Widow movie and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is the one that's kind of developing this Thunderbolts team. So we can likely assume that it will incorporate both U.S. Agent and Yelena Belova's Black Widow. But according to Deadline, other potential team members include Baron Zemo, of course, Ghost from the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, Taskmaster from Black Widow, the Abomination, who could possibly supplant Red Hulk, since it's likely we won't have him, considering William Hurt has passed on, and it's actually General Thunderbolt Ross that is the Red Hulk. We could also even get the Winter Soldier on the team. So a lot of great options that all get me excited to see this movie.
Yeah, that roster is super interesting. Like, I would love to see characters like Ghost and Taskmaster come back and actually done justice. You know?
Yeah, a lot of people don't like Taskmaster because of the whole gender swap thing. I care about the gender swap less than I do with basically the lack of screen time and importance that the character got in the Black Widow movie. If they can redeem Taskmaster in a Thunderbolts movie and make her just super badass, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Marvel has a history of correcting their mistakes. So this is the perfect opportunity to do that.
I think the biggest thing that surprised me about this news was that this Thunderbolts project is an actual movie, because I always assumed that it was going to be a television show.
I still think that Contessa Valentina is actually Latverian and working for Doctor Doom, and all of these characters are going to realize that they're being manipulated by a dictator.
That's a great angle. That could be a cool angle for sure.
Just speculation, but I think that'd be awesome.
Well, there's plenty of time for speculation, considering the movie doesn't actually start shooting until next summer, a year from now. So we're probably going to get a lot of casting announcements and updates throughout the coming months, and can't wait to report on them as they happen. But in regards to the roster of the Thunderbolts team, that brings us to our question of the week. What character are you hoping for the most to be on the Thunderbolts team, and why?
Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner, which will prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message could be up to 30 seconds long, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and award that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to Instagram. Be sure to answer before June 18th. But I think that does it for all of the news for this episode, so let's go ahead and move on to the main event, where we pit the Teen Titan, Miss Martian, against the Young Avenger member, Hulkling. Okay, Miss Martian versus Hulkling. As we mentioned, we're doing this episode in lead up to our big team duel that's happening later on this year, where we are pitting the Young Justice team against the Young Avengers. Now, I've always thought that the Martians in DC were pretty similar to the Skrulls in Marvel. So I've been wanting to do a duel between a Martian and a Skrull for a while, and this is sort of the perfect opportunity to do that, because the characters have so many similarities in that they both shapeshift, they're both green, they're both alien, they're both teens.
Yeah, and they're both pretty powerful. And I've been wanting to do a duel with Hulkling because he got a big kind of promotion in the comic books recently with the Empire storyline, where he kind of became the king of space as it were, which was pretty novel for this like minor Young Avengers character. You know, it was a great way to kind of bring them into the forefront.
Well, yeah, even the episode with Miss America, when you mentioned that Wiccan became like this all-powerful being known as the Demiurge, I thought that was an interesting promotion for the character as well.
Yeah, they're really making these young characters more of a big deal and giving them greater importance within the larger Marvel universe.
In a way that seems pretty organic, so kudos to Marvel for that.
Mm-hmm. The only time I've ever seen Miss Martian in anything was in the recent Justice League versus the Fatal Five movie, which we reviewed and didn't love.
No.
That's all I know about her. So I'm really interested in learning more about her.
Well, yeah, let's get into it. If you've never listened to one of our Duel episodes before, the way we determine a winner between these two characters is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations using their statistics. A Monte Carlo simulation is a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling.
And in our case, it randomizes statistics along a normal distribution, which is a bell curve, as a way to simulate the many variables that can occur during battle. The stat parameters we use are based on the official Marvel Power Grid, and we use that criteria to extrapolate the DC character stats. We've included some additional stat categories of our own, such as range, damage potential, versatility, and perception, in order to create a more complete and robust simulation.
Running these 1,000 simulations gives us a percentage of wins for each character, and we declare the one with the higher percentage to be the ultimate victor, considering that they're more likely to win any given battle. No character ever wins 100% of the time. Comics have shown that there's usually a way for Batman to defeat Superman, and we feel our method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the comic book stories.
And we use this method because it was the least subjective, most unbiased way to determine who would win. Of course, we're both heavily biased toward our respective allegiances, so instead of debating these matches forever, we just let the math decide for us. So there are no fan votes here, and no relying on just feats.
Before we run the simulations, though, we like to break down each character's histories and abilities before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the 1,000 simulations we run would play out beat for beat. And I think it's my turn to go first with the DC character's backstory, so let me tell you all about Miss Martian. On ancient Mars, there existed two races of Martians, green-skinned and white-skinned. Green Martians were peaceful philosophers, whereas white Martians were brutal warriors. Their conflicting ways of life eventually came to a head, and white Martians began slaughtering green Martians, igniting a civil war, during which time a white Martian father and mother fled the planet with their daughter, Megan Maors, to the Vega star system. Over time, the war led to the near extinction of the white Martian race, and the few remaining fled the planet. Eventually, word reached Megan's parents that the green Martian race had also gone extinct, save for one green Martian who had found a new home on Earth. The family returned to Earth's solar system and arrived on Earth, only for them and other white Martians to be captured by the US government and executed. Megan evaded capture, however, and telepathically hid herself, adopting a guise of a teenage human girl named Megan Morse to avoid suspicion. Following the Infinite Crisis event, when Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman retired from superheroics for a time, new heroes emerged, including Megan, who posed as a green Martian like Martian Manhunter and went by the name Miss Martian. She joined the Teen Titans along with other new young heroes like Kid Devil and Ravager, Deathstroke's daughter. You can learn more about Martian Manhunter in our Martian Manhunter vs. Vision duel episode and the Teen Titans in their team duel against the X-Men. Because Megan was new to human social interactions, to be a better team member, she attempted to quickly learn more about human behavior via television, specifically an episode of The Three Stooges. Shortly after joining the team, Megan caused an altercation amongst its members after throwing a pie in Ravager's face. Hypersensitive to the angry and emotional thoughts going on around her due to her telepathy, Megan left the Teen Titans shortly after joining the team. She relocated to the Australian outback, which reminded her of the Martian landscape, and she carried on her superheroics by protecting nearby Australian cities alone. A year after leaving the Teen Titans, they located her in Australia and asked her for help finding the hero Raven, who you can learn more about in our Raven vs. Phoenix episode. Though Miss Martian was not able to telepathically locate Raven, she did learn that one of the team's newest members, Bombshell, was actually harboring a secret, that she was a double agent. When Miggy tried to warn the Teen Titans, Bombshell set her on fire, causing Miggy to reveal her true White Martian form that she had been hiding. Despite her deception, she helped the team bring down Bombshell, and she was made a member of the Teen Titans once again. With Bombshell imprisoned, Miggy performed a telepathic interrogation on her, learning of the existence of the Titans East team of teen villains led by Deathstroke, just as that team arrived to rescue their member, Bombshell. One of the Titans East members, Sun Girl, was from the future, who claimed that Martians had grown in numbers in her time, but were made slaves, and that Miggy was her personal slave in the future. The Teen Titans managed to fend off Titans East, and not long after, the Teen Titans met a villainous version of themselves from the not-too-distant future known as the Titans Tomorrow. Miggy's future version, who went by the name Martian Manhunter, did not hide her White Martian identity and embraced her race's brutality. Miggy was forced to kill her future self, whose mind invaded Miggy just before the future version died, resulting in the development of multiple personalities, the docile Miggy and her aggressive future self. As her future self's mind became more powerful within her and began taking over her body more frequently, Miggy decided to leave the Teen Titans until she could learn to quell or purge her future self's evil mind. Prior to the Final Crisis event, the villain Darkseid had been reincarnated on Earth as a mob boss, running an underground fight club with young metahuman combatants, who were falling under Darkseid's control. Miggy infiltrated the club disguised as the Star-Spangled Kid and helped the combatants overcome their brainwashing, foiling Darkseid's plans to create a metahuman army. During the Final Crisis, Darkseid unleashed the anti-life equation on the planet, which actually helped purge Miggy's future self from her mind, and she helped others overcome the equation. She rejoined the Teen Titans afterward, and after several adventures, she took a break for a time and returned to her home in the Australian outback. It was there she was attacked by a female Green Martian named Decay Duraz, who had been imprisoned on Earth and mind-wiped by other Green Martians long ago for being a criminal. Martian Manhunter helped Miggy after her attack and eventually killed Decay. In post-Flashpoint continuity, Martian Manhunter took a more active role in Miggy's life, claiming to be her uncle and helping her disguise herself as a Green Martian. When Nightwing restarted the Titans team, Miggy was appointed as a member by the Justice League, and she served as a liaison between the two teams. Powers and abilities-wise, Miss Martian has the natural Martian ability to shift, alter, and regenerate her molecular structure, granting her vast strength and durability, as well as intangibility, invisibility, and the ability to shapeshift. She has enhanced senses, 9 of them to be exact, and she's also naturally a powerful telepath, capable of reading and controlling minds and projecting illusions. She also has telekinesis, which is often employed as flight, but also concussive beams from her eyes. Her only weakness, which she shares with other Martians, is fire. And that's Miss Martian.
So what you're saying is we got to find a way during the speculation for Hulkling to create fire.
I don't know if he can, but I'm pretty sure he can't.
He can't, but I'll find a way.
Nah.
Let me tell you all about Hulkling. For millennia, throughout the Marvel Galaxy, there were 3 primary races that had conquered much of the cosmos. The militaristic Kree, the shape-shifting Skrulls, and the avian-descended Shi'ar. The Kree and the Skrulls shared a long-standing antagonistic relationship, one that had broken out into the Kree-Skrull War, which spilled over into Earth and spurred the involvement of the Avengers. During the battle, several Avengers were captured by the Super Skrull, whom you can learn more about in our Metamorpho vs. Super Skrull episode. Among the captured was Captain Marvel, who at the time was the Kree warrior named Mar-Vell. While imprisoned, Mar-Vell met and had an affair with Princess Anel, daughter of the Skrull Emperor Dorek VII. Mar-Vell escaped imprisonment, not knowing that Anel was pregnant, and the princess later gave birth to their son. Learning about this, the Skrull Emperor Dorek ordered the child to be slain, so Princess Anel sent her son with her nursemaid to Earth so he could live with his father. However, upon arriving on Earth, the nursemaid learned that Mar-Vell had since died of cancer, which you can learn more about in our Supergirl vs. Captain Marvel duel. The nursemaid decided to raise the boy by herself, taking on the appearance of a human and the name Mary Jo Altman, and named the boy Theodore, aka Teddy Altman. Teddy grew up unaware of his heritage, believing that he was a mutant when he discovered his innate Skrull shapeshifting powers as an adolescent. He initially used his abilities as a prankster due to negative peer pressure, but he was an admirer of the Avengers and was shocked when Earth's mightiest heroes were defeated and disassembled by the crazed Scarlet Witch. You can learn more about this event in our Justice League vs. Avengers duel. Teddy was then approached by the young hero Iron Lad, who used the Vision's failsafe to form a new team. Alongside Iron Lad, Patriot, Stature, Wiccan, and the new Hawkeye Kate Bishop, Teddy, under the codename Hulkling, helped form the Young Avengers. He soon grew close to his teammate Wiccan, and the two formed a close relationship. After several adventures with the new team, Teddy was abducted by the Super Skrull, who revealed that both he and his alleged mom, Mary Jo Altman, were both Skrulls. Mary Jo tried to protect Teddy, as she was charged to do by Princess Anel all those years ago, but was killed in the process. Teddy was shocked, not only by the revelation that he was the heir of the Skrull Empire, but by the Super Skrull's request to take up his throne and unite his people. Kree soldiers then arrived, revealing Teddy as the son of their champion Mar-Vell, and notifying him that by law, he had to join the Kree army. Teddy refused both the Kree and the Super Skrull, however, and instead stayed on Earth to scatter his surrogate mother's ashes. During the Superhuman Civil War, the Young Avengers joined the side of Captain America, and Teddy played a crucial role in freeing imprisoned heroes by disguising himself as Yellow Jacket on Iron Man's registration side. Leading up to the Skrulls' secret invasion of Earth, Teddy got to speak with a miraculously resurrected Mar-Vell, and he got his father's blessing as a hero. However, it was later revealed that this version of Mar-Vell was simply a Skrull shapeshifter who was given the memories of the Kree warrior. During the Skrull invasion, Teddy tried to reason with the attack's leaders by revealing his identity as heir to their empire. They incapacitated him, however, to prevent the rest of the invasion from learning about this and jeopardizing the invasion. But Teddy was later able to escape with help from the Runaways team and helped clean up New York in the aftermath. After helping Wiccan rescue his mother, the Scarlet Witch, from the manipulations of Doctor Doom, and helping Wiccan realize his true potential as the future Demiurge, Teddy and Wiccan became engaged and retired from superheroics for a time. Later, they both joined the New Avengers team, and Teddy was abducted by a group of other Kree-Skrull hybrids called the Knights of Infinite, who claimed that Teddy was the chosen ruler of space if he could pull a sword called Excelsior from a beam of light emanating from their asteroid base, which he was able to do. Soon after, he was approached by Kree and Skrull agents to be the head of the new Kree-Skrull alliance, which was formed to defeat their common enemy, the Kotati, a race of plant-like beings who threatened Earth. Teddy accepted his role, but before leaving the planet, he and Wiccan got married in a ceremony with all the former Young Avengers in attendance. With the Avengers' help, Teddy's Kree-Skrull alliance defeated the Kotati, and he was formally named King of both empires. Wiccan was inducted as a court wizard, and the pair relocated to their new throne world and refashioned a pair of wedding rings from Teddy's father Mar-Vell's old negabands so that the two could always be linked. And that's his history. Powers-wise, Hulkling has great enhanced physiology due to being a Kree-Skrull alien hybrid. This grants him even greater strength than standard members of those races, able to lift around 75 tons. He's incredibly durable, able to deflect high-caliber bullets with his skin, and when he is injured, he has a rapid healing factor due to his shape-shifting ability. He can change his form to perfectly resemble anyone he chooses, but he often uses this ability to give himself greater combat prowess, with scale armor plating, sharp claws, and occasionally dragon-like wings. He wields Excelsior, which was forged from the ancestral blades of the Kree and Skrull into one sword. It can cut through most beings and deflect energy attacks, and he can remotely teleport it to any location, including summoning it into his possession. The glowing blade only damages those he wishes to harm, passing through allies uninjured. And that's Hulkling.
Can he do anything special with his negaband ring?
Yeah, he can transpose himself spatially with Wiccan, so they can swap places, basically. It was pretty cool because the way that was used in battle was during the Empire storyline, the Excelsior sword was actually shattered, and Wiccan used the fires of Dormammu to reforge it. and he was able to transpose himself with Hulkling to give Hulkling the sword right when he needed it the most. It was pretty badass.
That's cool. He seems like a really cool character.
Yeah, I like Hulkling and Wiccan, and we'll be doing a duel with Wiccan sometime in the near future. But now that we got both characters' histories and abilities out of the way, let's speculate on how one of the 1,000 simulated matches will go. The winner is determined by simulations, not this speculation, but it's fun to imagine how this fight could play out.
We don't set any rules for this match other than the characters don't know anything about each other going in, except that the other character is a threat that needs to be put down. And we say that they start off about 50 meters apart in an environment that has no bearing on the match itself because we don't take stats for the environment.
Plus, certain characters have advantages in some environments over others, and we want these characters to win on their own merit. So let's get into it. Miss Martian and Hulkling meet on the battlefield. Who goes first?
I'm going to say that Miss Martian is going to start, but like not with an attack because she's kind of timid. But I'm going to say she's going to do a mind scan to start off, right? And she's going to learn everything about Hulkling, all there is to know.
Oh, so, okay, so she's just going to learn about him?
Yeah.
Just learning? Like some kind of nerd? Well,
what?
So while she's being all nerdy, Hulkling, he's going to take some action. He's going to do some actioning. He's going to grow a pair of dragon wings and sharp claws on his hands, and he's going to fly up into the air and then swoop down and dive bomb Miss Martian, slashing her right across the face.
Well, that seems very telegraphed. Like the whole rising into the air and transforming. I mean, right when he gets close to her, she's just going to go intangible, like right before he reaches her. So this attack does nothing, all right? And then she's just going to blast him with her Martian vision, like in a continuous beam that it's going to knock him to the ground, and she's just going to like press him down there with the continuous beam, just holding him there.
All right, well, so, okay, Hulkling is getting like pulverized by this beam, but he's going to lift his hand in the air and shout out, "By the power of Excelsior!" And that's going to teleport his sword into his hand, which he's going to use to block this Martian vision beam.
Does he have to say that to summon the sword?
No, he doesn't have to. He just does.
That's awesome.
And as he's blocking the beam, he's going to dodge to the side, and he's going to just like jam the sword into the ground with a powerful thud that creates this earthquake on the ground that they're standing on, and it's going to open the ground beneath Miss Martian's feet, pulling her into this fissure.
I mean, but she doesn't fall because she can fly, so again, does nothing, and she's going to fly right into Hulkling, like knocking him away from his sword because that's still stuck in the ground. And then she's just going to pick that shit up, and now she has a sword.
No.
Look at her eyes. She's the captain now.
There's an enchantment on the sword. So, like, no one but Hulkling can actually wield it, kind of like Mjolnir. So, like, as she's struggling, trying to lift the Excelsior sword out of the ground, suddenly, Teddy comes up behind her, and she's lifted into the air by this giant green fist, because Teddy shapeshifted one of his fists into a giant hand. And he just squeezes her until she pops, like a green grape.
Okay, first of all, like, the fact that he could come up and surprise her from behind is laughable, because she's a telepath.
She's busy trying to lift the sword.
All right, let's say this happens. She doesn't pop if she gets squeezed. She's just going to shapeshift into this ooze-like form, and that's just going to, like, slither her way out of his fist and, like, up his arm and all the way to his face. It's going to wrap around his face, just smothering him.
That's fine. I mean, like, he could just shapeshift his lungs and, I guess, his mouth to where his chest is or something like that. That's fine. He can still breathe.
I mean, she covers his entire body, not just his face. I meant the whole body, and smothers him.
Okay. Well, as he's struggling for air because he's being smothered by this Martian ooze, he's going to feel around for his sword. And it's close by, so he finds it, and he's going to yank it from the ground and stab himself with it. And since the sword only passes through his enemies, it's going to stab her and not himself. So she gets stabbed, and she's going to shriek and, like, drop off of him onto the floor.
Okay, so she flops onto the floor, and she's probably in pain, but, like, she's going to quickly go invisible, all right? So she's able to recover from her wound, and he's just going to, like, wonder where she went. So as he's, like, looking around for her, all of a sudden, he sees Wiccan. And he's like, "Oh, what are you doing here? Come give me a hug or kiss or something," right? And as they embrace each other, that's when Hulkling just gets stabbed, like, in the chest with an arm blade by Wiccan, who is really Miss Martian.
That's cold-blooded, but also I'm wondering what kind of arm blade is even going to be able to pierce Hulkling's skin? Like, he's durable enough to stop blades and bullets.
It's like a really sharp blade, like molecule-thin blade.
Even, okay, one, if Hulkling gets stabbed by this, he's just going to shapeshift his vital organs out of the way, so the blade's going to go through him and not hit anything. And 2, like when the blade comes out, he could just almost instantaneously heal from it.
I'm getting like strong vibes of our Martian Manhunter versus Vision fight, where like neither of them could hurt each other.
But like Hulkling's like super pissed that Miss Martian would use the image of his loved one against him. So he's going to grow his fists into like these giant boulders, like thing fists kind of. And he's going to pulverize her. And these fists are going to cause sparks. You know, he like flit sparks as he smashes her between his rock fists. And these sparks, you know where I'm going with this. They catch her on fire.
But that makes like no sense because like, what is the fuel? Like, what, her hair catches fire?
Yeah, her hair or like her clothes or something catches fire.
Both her hair and her clothes aren't really clothes or hair. She just shapeshifts that to appear more human. Okay, so the sparks, they're just sparks that do nothing. Okay. Meanwhile, as she's initially getting pummeled into the ground with the rock fists, she's just going to phase into the ground. So he's just like punching the ground. That's when suddenly he like seizes up and falls to his knees. Miss Martian, she's going to appear behind him with her hands at his temples. She's mind wiping him and he's like helpless. She shuts down his mind and this match is over.
No. It's not, because as he's in mental anguish, as she's shutting down his mind, with his last thought, he's going to teleport remotely his Excelsior sword, and it's going to go right into Miss Martian's head. That's where it teleports. I've never actually seen him do that in the books, but I have read that he can teleport the sword anywhere he wants. So yeah, sword goes right through Miss Martian's brain, and it's going to shut down her telepathy and her life. She's dead.
Except that Miss Martian wasn't really there. Her presence was just like a mental illusion. She's really actually a few yards in front of him. He just can't see her because mind illusion powers. So his aim was way off and his mind still shuts down.
Well, agree to disagree.
What? You can't do that. I get to decide where Miss Martian is.
I'm saying that Miss Martian was actually right behind him and she got a sword through the brain. You're saying she was actually a few yards away. We'll leave the match there. Either she was where the sword is or she wasn't. Either Hulkling dies or Miss Martian dies. We'll go ahead and input the stats on these characters, run the simulations, and find out which of these scenarios actually happened when we come back with the winner. This match sucked. I gotta say, as we were inputting the stats for these two characters, Hulkling was much less impressive statistically than I thought he was gonna be. And Miss Martian, of course, is one of those overpowered DC characters, as is her contemporary Martian Manhunter.
Martians are incredibly powerful in DC, but so are Skrulls. That said, Hulkling definitely did not end up being like the most powerful Skrull I've ever seen. Super Skrull, I feel like, was definitely more powerful than him.
Well, it's because Super Skrull has like all the powers of the Fantastic Four, right? Whereas Hulkling, he primarily has his shapeshifting ability, his strength, and his magic sword. But yeah, we found that Miss Martian was faster. She was more evasive because she could turn intangible. They were about the same in strength, around the same in durability and damage level and fighting skill, but she was definitely better than him when it came to range. I guess Hulkling could throw Excelsior, whereas Miss Martian, has her Martian vision.
Yeah, she was definitely more perceptive than him. I think that was actually her main advantage in this whole match, was the fact that she had telepathy and mind powers and he didn't.
Right.
She was much more versatile as well because of that. So, what do you think of all this?
I think I'm ready for the next duel. But you know what? To our Instagram followers' credit, they totally called to this match, with 66% of our poll takers calling this match for Miss Martian.
Do you think the actual results will be over or under that?
I think Miss Martian is going to win by more than 66%.
Well, I have the results right here, so let's see if that's accurate. In the matchup between Miss Martian and Hulkling, the winner is Miss Martian.
Yep.
By 85.8%. She won 858 of the 1,000 matches that we simulated.
Hulkling, that is more than I thought it was going to be, actually. I thought it was going to be around like the high 70s or something.
Nah. Hulkling only won 14.2% of the matches.
Well, that...
I'm honestly
sucks.
surprised.
I thought that like Miss Martian was substantially less powerful than Martian Manhunter, but the two were actually fairly comparable. And I would never put Hulkling against Martian Manhunter in a duel. And that's what I just did. I feel so stupid. Idiot.
I thought it was going to be a better matchup than it actually was, but that probably just accounts for my ignorance of Hulkling going into this match.
Well, I mean, they do have comparable power sets, you know? I still think, theoretically, this sounds like a good match, even though in practice, it turned out to be the opposite of a good match. You know, it was very one-sided, unfortunately. But don't worry, maybe one day Hulkling will get telepathy or something. I don't know.
Some firepower. He's going to need literal firepower.
Yep. There you go. His sword is going to get the ability to shoot fire. And then Miss Martian is going down.
I mean, whatever helps you sleep at night, man.
I'm going to write Marvel and tell them to please give Excelsior fire powers. And yeah, that will make me sleep better.
Like blue fire?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah,
that would be cool.
That would be cool.
Well, that does it for this duel. Let us know what you thought about the results by writing to us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by visiting us on Instagram or Twitter. You can find links to all of our accounts by checking out our show notes or visiting our website, dynamicduel.com.
And on our site, again, you could also find a link to our Patreon page where we offer ad-free episodes of the show via a custom RSS feed, bonus content including top 10 episodes and bloopers, monthly live movie watch-alongs, and access to our Discord server. Check it out right after this episode at patreon.com/dynamicduel. Again, our lowest tier is only $2 a month, and it's $10 a month to become an executive producer. In our next episode, as a tie-in to this duel, we are going to be reviewing the Marvel Studios film, The Incredible Hulk, which was made in conjunction with Universal Studios.
It's been a long time since I've seen this movie. I think I've only watched it once in theaters.
Really? Well, that's too bad. But it's a good film. We'll definitely be talking about it next week.
But that does it for this episode. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, John Speas, Ken Johnson, John Starosky, Zachary Hepburn, Dustyn Balcom, Miggy Matanguihan, Brendan Estergard, Ariana Cuadra, Nathaniel Wagner, Levi Yeaton, Austin Wesolowski, and Nick Abanto for helping make this podcast possible. We'll talk to you guys next week. Up, and away.
True believers.